Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Thank you. Hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners around the world, but also to welcome to the show 4 exciting, dynamic, and talented players of this game. And they are seated on my right, Paul Merton and Ross Noble, and seated on my left, Gyles Brandreth and Jenny Eclair. Please welcome all 4 of them! And as usual, I am going to ask them to speak on a subject that I will give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. Sitting beside me is Sarah Sharp. She's going to help me with the score. She's going to blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And tonight, we are celebrating an anniversary because it's the 45th year of Just a Minute and the first of the new series in the 46th year. So you are privileged, audience, here to be on this historic occasion. And I've been told that all the subjects have a little retro feel about them, in keeping with the celebration of 45 years. I did the first pilot, I'm still doing it. God, I can't believe it. Am I really that old? Yes. Oh, no, I shouldn't have asked that, should I? All right, Paul, let's start the show with you, and the subject is When I Wear a Top Hat. 60 seconds. As usual, starting now.
I like to wear a top hat when I'm visiting 10 Downing Street. The Prime Minister, Harold Wilson, always greets me with a lovely smile. I also like to wear a top hat when I'm pretending to be Isambard Kingdom Brunel. I stroll around the Bristol area, building bridges, smoking a small cigar and posing behind large chains. That's the only photograph you ever see of the aforementioned gentleman. They must have taken more pictures, but I dare say that was considered the most photographic. I also love to wear a top hat when I'm working as a magician. I belong to... Oh.
Gyles, you're challenged.
Hesitation.
It was a hesitation, yes. And you went for a full 30 seconds, Paul. Yeah. And that means you've got 30 seconds left. You get a point for a correct challenge, Gyles. You take over the subject When I Wear a Top Hat, starting now.
When I wear a top hat, watch out, because my personality changes. I don't become Fred Astaire. I become the Mad Hatter.
Oh, Jenny challenge.
Become.
Yes.
Become.
I'm sure you're very becoming in your top hat, but you said become twice.
What I loved was half the audience picked it up as well. They, oh! So, Jenny, a correct challenge, a point to you. You take over the subject. 22 seconds are still available. When I wear a top hat, starting now.
I wear my top hat when I go tap dancing. Coattails, white tie, stockings, suspenders, shuffle. Oh, I nearly said tap twice.
Gyles.
Well, there's a couple of taps and hesitation when she realised it.
Yes.
14 seconds, Gyles. When I wear a top hat, starting now.
I caper like a zany as though created by Lewis Carroll. A bit unfortunate because I'm at a Buckingham Palace garden party wearing the aforementioned top hat, and when I'm introduced to the Queen and bow low before her...
Ross challenged.
No, sorry, I'm an idiot.
Why?
Sorry.
Is that breaking news?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Breaking news?
Yeah.
I can't give you a bonus point for that.
No, I was momentarily distracted by a man in full Hawaiian dress. In the front row. Sorry. I know, strictly speaking, it's not within the rules of the game, but we've got a man dressed as Magnum, and I panicked and thought that was a panic button. So...
I think his wife might have told him that they were going on a cruise. You look great.
You've clearly got malaria. So, yeah. So I won't be challenging under the rules, but that's the only time I'm going to press the buzzer.
Right.
Today.
Give him a bonus point, because we didn't enjoy what he said. All right. And...
Thank you very much.
Gyles, you were interrupted, so you keep the subject, and you've got 4 seconds only on When I Wear a Top Hat, starting now.
When I last went to Hawaii, I took my top hat and looked completely ridiculous. I was absurd.
Paul challenged.
I couldn't quite hear. It was going such a speed. Was there a deviation? Did he mispronounce something?
No,
he didn't mispronounce it. He was going very quickly to get it into the 4 seconds.
Right.
So he didn't actually.
No, OK.
It was all very slurred, but...
He's been drinking.
And he's been drinking, yes. Water, I believe. 1 second left. You've got another point, Gyles. Start now.
Size 17.
So at the end of that round, of course, in this game, whoever's speaking when the whistle goes gained the extra point. It was Gyles Brandreth, and he's got others in the round. He's in a strong lead, and we move to Ross to begin the next round. Ross Noble, I don't know why this has been chosen for you, but it's certainly a period. The English Nanny. Can you tell us something about it? I don't know whether you've ever employed one.
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Right,
yeah,
right.
when I was a child.
Right. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
The biggest problem with the British nanny is they always hang around with chimney sweeps.
Paul, challenge.
Well, deviation, this is the English nanny, not the British nanny.
That's right.
Oh, what, so England's not part of Britain anymore?
Oh, yes.
You dirty racist.
Actually, I think Ross has got a valid point there.
Does
The subject is the English nanny,
yes,
but he's happened to go off on the British nanny.
Yes, so he hasn't gone off the subject at all.
Not quite, no. It was a good try. We loved hearing from you.
No.
That's right. So, Ross, a point to you. Incorrect challenge. 57 seconds. The English nanny starting now.
Wales and Scotland, of course, have excellent nannies, but the English nanny is the particular type of nanny that I'm going to talk about now. If you were to go across the bridge into that fine Welsh country, you'd hear them going, "Oh, look at that, those children over there. They're desperate for somebody to look after them." If you were to go to...
Paul challenge.
Oh, deviation from the English nanny. We're getting a lot of Welsh now, you see.
No, because he was looking across at the English children.
Well, you hadn't made that clear.
Well, I was about
he
to.
definitely didn't make
Had
it
I not
clear.
been so rudely interrupted, sir?
No, Ross had the benefit of the doubt last time. You got it this time, definitely, Paul. And you have got 37 seconds to tell us something about the English nanny starting now.
The European nanny is...
I'm simply not having it.
I think you'll find England's part of Europe in the same way that it's part of Britain.
Jenny, you want to say something?
Was it part of Europe in 1967, or am I being very stupid? Come on, Eclair!
Are you mixing up membership of the common market with being in Europe?
Probably, Paul, yes.
Yes, right. Paul, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, because, as I said to Ross when he talked about the British nanny, you happen to go off and obviously going to compare it with the English nanny, because you hadn't got established. So you still have the subject. 35 seconds. The English nanny starting now.
One of the first films I saw in the cinema was Mary Poppins, starring Julie Andrews. When I think back to that marvellous picture, you still see it running at Christmas time and Easter. And it's a magnificent piece of cinema. The set design, the performances, those wonderful songs, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I didn't repeat that, did I?
The English nanny is what we're supposed to be talking about,
Yes.
and he's conjuring up
Mary Poppins?
No, we appreciate your conjuring up Mary Poppins, but we're way, way, way away from actually the qualities of the English nanny. No English nanny would actually
I
convert
think
a
Mary
child.
Poppins turned out to be the most amazing nanny we've ever seen. And
She wasn't real. Nicholas, she wasn't real.
It doesn't matter. She was an English nanny in fiction.
I know you feel a little bit difficult about this, Nicholas, because...
Well,
No, because Dick Van Dyke got the part, Nicholas hoped for it, you know. But they preferred Dick's accent. I don't know why.
Can I have, like, a future challenge that he was going to do repetition? Diddle-diddle-diddle-diddle-lie, diddle-diddle-diddle-diddle.
No, I can't give you any more bonus.
But strictly speaking, this show's in the past, so therefore, if we wait 45 years, can I have the point?
Give a point in 45 years.
This show is
Nicholas will still be doing it, I can guarantee.
This show is in the present, but we are talking about things from the past. And the English nanny may probably just definitely still exist, but not to the same extent as in the past. It was an incorrect challenge. Mary Poppins was a great English nanny and showed it so, though it was fiction. 18 seconds still with you, Paul, starting now.
She showed wonderful powers of imagination towards the children in her charge. She wanted them to have inspired ideas, to fall in love with stories, to have their hearts lifted by imaginative ideas that pull them above their normal everyday life into a world where people could jump into chalk drawings.
So Paul Merton then speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point. He's now creeping up on Gyles, which is a very insidious thing to do, but but only metaphorically speaking. And then comes Ross Noble and Jenny in that order. And Jenny, we'd like you to begin the next round. Here's something for you. Knitting a cable-stitch jumper. Oh! It's a pretty of a tough subject, isn't it? I don't know whether it's part of your talents or not.
Oh, yeah, I've left one in the dressing room, you know. OK, I'm
60
ready.
seconds, starting now.
There is absolutely no point whatsoever in knitting a cable-stitch jumper. Just buy one from a shop, for heaven's sake. At least it won't be riddled with holes and blood from that time you stabbed yourself and dropped the needles when you were watching Hollyoaks. The other problem with the cable knit...
Giles,
We've established we're in 1967, 18 years before Hollyoaks began.
I didn't know that we'd established that we're referring back to things that occurred when the show was started in 1967, but we're not saying that we can't refer to the present in talking about the past.
Quite right, and I don't think Jenny would have been born in 19...
Barely? I certainly wasn't capable of knitting a cable-stitch jumper.
And not now either. Anyway, Jenny, an incorrect challenge, I decide. You've still got the subject, and you have 41 seconds starting now.
Anyway, what are you going to do with it once you've knitted it? You can't wear it yourself. I'm a menopausal woman. The whole thing would give me an enormous hot flush. You'd have to give it to Kenneth Moore. He looked ever so good in a cable-knit sweater. On the Richter scale of knitting, I would say...
Ross challenge.
Oh, no, I thought it was knitted, but it's knitting, isn't it?
Yeah, I said knitted and knitting.
Yeah.
Damn you, you Hawaiian fool! Messing with my mind with your ham and pineapple looks.
Right. I love your interjections and your interruptions, Ross, but I'm afraid Jenny gets a point. And there are 25 seconds, Jenny, still knitting a cable-stitch jumper starting now.
Cable-stitch knitting is harder than stocking stitch, but easier than Aran or Fair Isle, I would imagine. Not having any clue, really. In fact, just casting on would be a bit of a problem for yours truly. But then again, I have other skills. However, I do think that we should bring back that particular art form to our children.
So Jenny Eclair started with the subject and finished with it in spite of interruptions. And she's now equal with Paul Merton in second place, 1 point behind Gyles, Brandreth, and a couple ahead of Ross Noble. Gyles, we're back with you to start. The subject here is right back to 1967, Derek Nimmo. That's the subject. Of course, the reason we've chosen him is because Derek was in the original pilot of Just a Minute and became one of the regulars for quite a while. Would you talk about him, please, Gyles? 60 seconds starting now.
Derek Robert Nimmo, who would indeed have been here back in 1967, born in 30 was the year, and then lived on to the end of the century, died before his time. Began life in Liverpool, became an actor, and then found his nose to be too large, had it bobbed, and became a comedic player as a result of it. Famous, of course, for playing clergymen, especially in All Gas and Gaiters. A glorious fellow, a bon viveur, a raconteur, and a man who could twiddle his toes. I would like now to demonstrate how he did this by taking off my shoe and sock, but he had a unique way of doing it. He was a gentleman, loved having monogrammed slippers, and I do recall visiting his house in Earl's Court where there was a footman and a butler, both aristocrats. Derek himself, married to the beautiful Pat, had 3 children and was a darling human being who once ate
Giles, you kept going for 58 seconds. Listen, if someone goes for 60 seconds, I give them a bonus point. I'll give you that.
That's what he did.
Yes.
I saw it when he did a girl in my soup.
He did a girl in your suit.
That's what Derek Nimmo did.
No, it was in Charlie Girl he did it.
It was in Charlie Girl. Yes. It was in Charlie Girl.
I saw Charlie Girl then.
Yeah.
You saw Charlie Girl.
With Anna Neagle.
With Anna Neagle, yes.
I thought you said Leonard Nimoy. Sorry. Oh, it's a good job I didn't get in then.
That wasn't a very tasteful moment in Just a Minute. Jenny Eclair, because I'm explaining to our listeners, actually took her socks off and brought her foot up onto the table in front of her.
But she was able to, which is more than you and I could have done, Nicholas.
I can't get it back down now.
Anyway, you got the bonus point, and Paul's got in with 2 seconds to go on Derek Nimmo, starting now.
He came to prominence as a stuttering cleric.
And Paul, speaking of the whistle when gained that extra point, is equal in the lead now with Gyles. Gyles, a little bit of memorabilia which might amuse you, might worry you actually, is that it was often suggested when we had the four regulars, Derek Nimmo, Peter Jones, Clement Freud and Kenneth Williams, that maybe Charles Brandreth would be a very good choice to be in the show. And the powers that be said, oh no, we can't have Gyles, he sounds too much like Derek Nimmo. Oh. On radio you want different voices. So that was one of the reasons you weren't with us so much at the beginning. Hasn't made any impression on you.
It's only one of the reasons, apparently. Only one of them.
I wasn't
nice place to find out, isn't it? Nice place to find out. Only one of them.
You didn't know it, obviously.
I didn't know it. I know. No, it's not what you told me at the time, that's all. That's fine.
Right, Paul, we're back with you to begin. The subject is things that make me blush. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
I suppose, like most of it, it's social embarrassing situations. I remember 30 years ago telling a group of people about some awful situation comedy I'd seen on television and then realised that one of the individuals I was talking to starred in this, and I tried in some way to say, oh, although it's an awful piece of work, the people in it are...
Right, and Giles.
Repetition of awful.
Yes, and Pete, right. Yeah. So, Giles, you've got in again. 43 seconds available. Things that make me blush. Starting now.
I am reading Tony Blair's memoirs, and this is making me blush. The volume I have is in German. I prefer the title. A Journey is what it is called in our language, but in the foreign one it is called Ein Fahrt. This book is embarrassing me, but doesn't seem to have made Tony...
Jenny challenge.
Repetition of Tony.
Yes, Tony, yes, right. And we don't want too much repetition of that. 23 seconds for you, Jenny, on things that make me blush, starting now.
Not much makes me blush because I had my embarrassment glands removed surgically by a Harley Street surgeon some years ago. In fact, the only things that make me blush nowadays are hot, spicy foods, too much alcohol and wearing a cable-stitched jumper in an overheated room when I'm suffering from one of my hormonal mood swings.
So, Jenny Eclair was speaking of the whistle when gained the extra point. She's moved forward. Oh, she's one behind our leader, Gyles, and she's equal with Paul Merton. And Ross, we'd like you to begin the next round. And the subject is, oh, this is ridiculous for radio, how to perform a Cornish floral dance. I should explain to our listeners that laugh is because of the way Ross was looking at that particular time. I don't know if it's part of the floral dance or not, but will you please talk on the subject, if you can, Ross, starting now?
Many's the time I've gone to the hip nightclubs of fashionable London town and performed a Cornish floral dance. The looks on the faces of the assembled young people is a delight as I clamber up onto a podium, put on some tight trousers and parade around in a Cornish fashion. And by that, I mean I hold a pasty between my legs and as I rhythmically sway from side to side,
Giles challenge.
Side to side.
They wanted him to go on.
I did.
33 seconds, Giles. You've got the subject, how to perform a Cornish floral dance, starting now.
As we know, it was Sir Arnold Bax who said in this life you...
Ross challenge.
we don't. I think,
forgive me,
if you're including me in the
Can I
we,
say,
I'm sorry, but that's deviation.
I was speaking to the listeners at home and the Radio 4 audience, I assure you, knows exactly who Sir Arnold Bax was. 1892. No, am I right? Thank you. I mean, it's lovely that some
Hang
people...
on a second, but I'll be listening to this when it goes out, and I don't know. So,
Ross, we enjoyed your interruption. Give you a bonus point for that. Giles was interrupted. He was speaking colloquially. It's a phrase people often use. So, Giles, you have the benefit of the doubt. You continue. 29 seconds. How to perform a Cornish passy dance. No, I'm sorry. No. It's a better subject, isn't it? A Cornish floral dance, starting now.
In this life, you should try everything once except for incest and folk dancing. So when, as a child, I was in Lost with You with my auntie Morag, we managed both and on the same afternoon. It was an extraordinary experience. I have never known anything quite like it. I thought this was to be a bucket and spade holiday, but no.
Oi! Sorry, you've been challenged.
Is it just me, but is talking about incest deviation when the... the subject of the Cornish floral dance.
You're right. Deviation, literally and figuratively.
Yes.
In this case. Yeah.
I think we have to accept that that is deviation within the rules of just a minute.
Within
as
the
well.
rules of life, I would have thought. Never mind just a minute. When
Yeah.
you...
And indeed, within the rules of the magistrate, we met at Truro that Saturday.
Paul, you have the subject. And there are 15 seconds available. How to perform a Cornish floral dance starting now.
Well, this is a very ancient tradition that goes back many centuries. If you go to St. Ives, you will find many people standing there in national costume because the people of Cornwall think of themselves as a separate country away from the rest of us. And they get the floral... I didn't know what the next word was.
And they get the floral right. So Paul got that extra point for speaking as a whistle went, and he's moved forward. He's 1 point behind Gyles, who's still the leader. Then Jenny Eclair, then Ross Noble, all very close, very exciting. And Gyles, we're back with you to begin. And here's a subject which is probably your period. What Gladstone said in 1894. Can you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
What Gladstone said in 1894 was goodbye. It was the end of his golden era. He finally retired as Prime Minister, having had that post 4 times. And in his farewell speech, William Ewart Gladstone, or as an anagram goes, wild agitator means well, bade an au revoir to the British people. Blue.
Ross Challenge.
It was repetition, just of the letters. He said it was an anagram, so he's repeating himself, just not in the order that he did before.
What did he repeat? Just go through it again with me.
I wasn't really listening, to be honest. I was too frightened that Derek Nimmo's ghost had come back to haunt me. Yeah, it was an anagram of
Gladstone's
Gladstone's
name.
name. So he said, yeah.
So you repeated some of the letters, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because...
This game might have become really hard to play all of a sudden.
Are we not allowed to repeat any letters?
No, you are. This means,
just not the same
if I say
ones in a
steak, I
different
can't
order.
then say, Keats. Because Keats is an anagram of steak.
Yeah, but Keats has got a capital K, so it's okay.
Oh, no, well, we're getting too pedantic now,
But not
really.
skate, if you
Gladstone,
skate.
there's not a repeat of any letters in Gladstone's name, so I think it was an incorrect challenge, Ross, but we loved hearing from you. Giles, you've still got the subject. 38 seconds. What Gladstone said in 1894, starting now.
What Gladstone said in 1894 was softly spoken because Queen Victoria had complained that being addressed by him was like actually receiving somebody who was speaking at a public meeting.
Paul Challenge.
Sort of deviation there, slight sort of slip on the word.
Yeah.
Yes, or hesitation, whichever you want.
Combination of the two. So.
Yes.
Paul, a point to you. 29 seconds. What Gladstone said in 1894, starting now.
That Nicholas Parsons is having a tremendous career, said Gladstone in 1894, as he turned to Disraeli, who walked into him and said, I thought you were dead. No, I've come back to haunt you.
Giles Challenge.
Sorry to be pedantic, but Disraeli was dead by then.
That's what I said, I thought you were dead. I said that. That's Gladstone talking to Disraeli. I thought you were dead. He said, I've come back to haunt you. Sorry,
Very good, very sharp.
Yeah, no. You were speaking almost as fast as you did then, Giles.
Yeah.
So you're confusing. You've got the words out too quickly. So, Paul, 20 seconds, still with you. What Gladstone said in 1894, starting now.
As he came towards the end of his political career, Gladstone looked out the window in 1894 and turned to his servant, Chivers, and said, would you mind going to the drinks cabinet and bringing me a bottle of 1865 brandy? And the old man's servant wandered over into the living room where the great man had stored...
Oh, yes, Jenny.
Couple of greats.
Yes, right, a couple of greats. And Jenny, you got in with 3 seconds to go. What Gladstone said in 1894, starting now.
Where's my bag, said Gladstone in 1894.
So, let me give you the score. I've told we're going into the final round. Oh, that wasn't much of a reaction, was it? I'll give you the situation as we enter the final round. Ross Noble, who hasn't been with us for some time, he's trailing a little in 4th place, behind Jenny Eclair, who's in a strong 3rd place. And there we have Gyles Brandreth, 1 point behind our leader, Paul Merton. And Paul, it's your turn to begin. The subject is the importance of art. What pompous questions we've got, this subject we've got. Give us some knowledge on that one, 60 seconds starting now.
Oscar Wilde once said something to the effect that all art is useless, but of course he was being provocative. The art that we see around us that livens up our life if we look at colours. There's a man here wearing a beautiful Hawaiian shirt. That is a beautiful...
Ross challenge.
Well, that's deviation. It's not beautiful, is it?
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Ross, what we'll do then, we're generous and give you a bonus point because we enjoyed the interruption.
Well, the man himself is clapping, so he obviously thinks it's an ugly shirt. So...
He obviously does,
Yeah.
yes. So you got the subject still. You were interrupted.
Yes.
But because we enjoyed the interruption, I'm giving Ross a bonus point.
Right.
And you've got 47 seconds, Paul, the importance of art, starting now.
If we walk around our modern art galleries and see the fantastic paintings that have been produced over the centuries, it gives us...
Giles challenged.
He's mentioned paintings earlier.
Yes, you did.
Did I? Oh, yeah, I might have done.
Yes,
Yeah.
you've done,
Probably
yes.
did, yeah.
So, Giles, you've got in, with 40 seconds to go, the importance of art, starting now.
The importance of art cannot be underestimated. It is the inspiration for us all. Touch and Gauguin is how you would describe the pictures that I produce, but nonetheless, my fridge door is actually ablaze with colour because I use food to create art and to recognize its importance as the stuff of life. I take up the ketchup and squirt it. Then out comes the mustard, followed by the quiche that gives you an early Miro effect. And there we think, it could be Courbet or is that Matisse? Either way, the art critics are excited. And that curious man who used to write for the London Evening Standard and has the funny, quaint voice, he comes round to my place to borrow the sugar.
Well, Giles Brandreth kept going magnificently until the whistle went and deserved that huge round of applause and the bonus point for speaking as the whistle went. And what an interesting final result. Ross, who gives such wonderful value, mostly about other people's shirts, came in fourth place, but only just behind Jenny Eclair, who was only a point or two behind Paul Merton and Giles Brandreth, who very fairly are equal in the lead. So we have joint winners this week. Right, it only remains for me to say thank you to these four fine players of the game, Paul Merton, Ross Noble, Jenny Eclair and Giles Brandreth. I thank Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle so well. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. We're grateful to our producer, Claire Jones, and we're very grateful to this lovely audience here who've cheered us on our way. So from the audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, goodbye. Tune in the next time we play Just a Minute! Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners around the world. And welcome to the show four talented, exciting, dynamic, humorous personalities who are going to play Just a Minute. And they are seated on my right, Paul Merton and Ross Noble, and seated on my left, Jenny Eclair and Giles Brandreth. Please welcome all four of them. And as usual, I'm going to ask them to speak on a subject that I give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. Beside me sits Sharon Leonard, who's going to help me with the score and blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And we're going to begin this edition of Just a Minute with Giles Brandreth. Giles, the subject here is self-help books. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
The title of the self-help book that sits on my bedside at the moment is Hey, That Doesn't Go There. It's a self-help sex guide, and I find it something that my wife gave me for Christmas last year. It goes along...
Oh, Ross's challenge.
It's not a real challenge, but I think I'm going to be sick.
It's probably any time you got a bonus point for saying you're going to be sick. But we enjoyed the interruption. But Giles was interrupted, so you get a point for that, Giles. And you have 48 seconds available to tell us something more about self-help books starting now.
Nobody Likes Me, and That's Probably Okay, is another of the volumes that sits next to my little pillow.
Jenny challenged.
Sits next. He had...
Yes, it is. Oh, yes.
Sorry, Giles.
No, that's fine.
So, Giles, Jenny, you've got
a book to help me through this rather difficult moment.
You've got a point for a correct challenge. 41 seconds are still available. Self-help books starting now.
Men are from Mars, women have just got back from Waitrose and are putting away the shopping. That's my favourite self-help book, to be honest with you. Never read one in my life. The fact I'm sitting here gibbering inwardly, rocking silently to and fro, and in need of Valium is beside the point. I can't stand the way that women are suckered into buying.
Oh, Giles challenge.
Repetition of women.
You mentioned
Yes,
women before.
yes,
You did,
yes.
right. That's 19 seconds with you, Giles. Another point, of course. Self-help books starting now.
When it comes to self-help books, you cannot beat the great book, the Holy Bible, which tells us in 66 wonderful books that the proverb is the one that really takes me through. A little sleep, a touch of slumber, some folding of the hands to rest, and poverty.
All challenged.
Did he lose a bit of sense there?
Yeah. The look on your face tells us exactly that's what he did.
Yes.
But I think he was trying to establish that the Bible is in many ways a self-help book.
It is.
I'm going to be generous to you and give you the benefit of the doubt, because otherwise, if anybody else gets it, they've only got 1 second left. And it wouldn't be fair, would it? So 1 second, Giles. Keep going. Self-help books starting now.
No eggs, rice, pastoral potatoes in my diet, self-help book.
In this game, whoever speaking with the whistle goes gains an extra point. On this occasion, it was Giles Brandreth, and you won't be surprised to know that Ross has got a point, Jenny's got a point, and Giles has got 3 points. Ross, will you begin the next round?
Yes.
The search for intelligent life. 60 seconds are starting now.
In Japan, there is a robot that has learned English, which is ridiculous because nobody understands what it's saying. What with them all being Japanese. They've had to give it a phrase book and...
Paul challenge.
There was a bit of a hesitation.
There was an A there, yes,
Yes.
I'm afraid so, yes.
Yes.
And you have 40 seconds that are available. You've got a point, Paul, and the subject is the search for intelligent life starting now.
They've recently built the world's biggest telescope and installed it in Chile, I believe, way up a mountain where you can see through the clouds, and they're already discovering all these extra galaxies that are like ours, that have a sun with planets revolving around them. It's inconceivable now that we think there's life on Mars. There's certainly the presence of water, which would suggest that at some point in its past it was habitable. If that is the case, then the solar system is awash with H2O, and the moons of Titan as the radio waves cool. That's not a word, but it doesn't matter.
Ross, you challenge Ross.
Well, he sort of challenged himself, and I thought, well, I'll ride on
Do
that.
I get a point for challenging myself?
Well, yes, but your light didn't come on, Ross's came on.
Yeah,
Oh,
no.
I see.
And so what is the challenge, Ross?
Well, it was deviation from language and...
Other planets that mean something.
And it was hesitation within the word, the cool.
All right, give you the benefit of the doubt, Ross.
Thanks.
You've got the subject, you've got 6 seconds. The search for intelligent life starting now.
I watched Big Brother recently in the search for intelligent...
Paul challenge.
Oh, you got there just before I did. No, the challenge was going to work, so it's a wrong challenge.
You're going to suggest there wasn't intelligent
Yeah,
life
but
there,
then
yes.
that's what Ross said.
Yes, and that's what Ross said. Right, so that was all very exciting, wasn't it? Ross, incorrect challenge. You've got 3 seconds left. The search for intelligent life starting now.
I built myself a giant rocket and lit it.
Wait a minute, who challenged? Jenny?
Myself. He's done that myself before.
Oh, yes, you did say myself before.
I'm really sorry, Ross.
Oh, that's harsh, but
I know.
fair.
And you've got him with half a second to go. So, Jenny, in half a second, can you tell us something about the search for intelligent life starting now?
Don't come round my house looking for intelligent life.
Paul, will you begin the next round?
Yes.
The subject is things I throw away. 60 seconds are starting now.
It's very difficult to avoid getting clutter in the house, but the things I tend to throw away more than anything, I suppose, are newspapers, because I buy a couple of them every day, and they soon mount up in the corridor, so I get... This is boring, isn't it? What a boring opening speech that was.
So, but you were interrupted then by Jenny,
Yeah, good.
who has a correct challenge, and she has 48 seconds to talk about things I throw away starting now.
Chicken carcasses, tea bags, empty hummus pots, bacon rinds. It is
Gyles
dull, Paul.
challenge.
You're absolutely right.
Well, it sounds like a low-grade generation game, doesn't it?
Oh, I got lucky.
Empties on the pot. Tea bag. Reflecting economic conditions today.
Gyles, you challenge first.
Hesitation.
Hesitation, yes. You have 43 seconds. The things I throw away, starting now.
The things I throw away are opportunities, mainly. The last one I threw away was when I had the chance to encounter the great American entertainer Michael Jackson, who was over here as the guest of Uri Geller, giving Uri... Oh, Lord!
Paul challenge.
Repetition of Uri.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And so 29 seconds are still available, Paul. You have another correct challenge and a point, of course. Things I throw away, starting now.
I find books on my shelves and I think to myself, why did I ever buy that particular volume? And so I put them into a box, and rather than just throw them away, I take them down to the local charity shop, and their books are in good condition.
Repetition of books.
Yes, books there. 18 seconds, back with you, Gyles. Things I throw away, starting now.
Things I throw away include all my wardrobe from my childhood, kept for many years in the hope that I would one day be slim enough to slip into those trunks once more. Alas, 'twas not the case, and my Hawaiian shirts, such a wonderful souvenir of happy holidays, hula hooping, there I was, I brought them home, thrown them away.
So, Gyles was then speaking when the whistle went and gained an extra point for doing so, of course. And what is the situation? Well, he's still in the lead, just ahead of Jenny, and 2 ahead of Ross Noble and Paul Merton, who are both equal in 3rd place. And Jenny, it's your turn to begin. The subject is food allergies. Will you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
Tomatoes. Tinned tomato, puree, baked beans, fruits, which include citruses, give me mouth ulcers. The other stuff I'm allergic to is wheat. Makes me look hugely pregnant. People look at me and think, oh, twins. No, just had a bun.
Gyles.
Repetition of look.
Yeah.
Yes, he's right.
He said look twice. I mean, good advice when crossing the road, but not necessarily...
Gyles, correct challenge, 44 seconds. Food allergies, starting now.
I think I must be allergic to everything, because as the years have gone by, my consumption has resulted in a slack stomach, appalling skin, and balls.
Jenny challenge.
Hesitation.
Why?
I actually...
When? He didn't hesitate.
No, it was when he went slack a stomach, and he was a face of hesitation, but it wasn't actually hesitation coming out of his mouth. It was strange. I'm really sorry to have interrupted. I caught sight of this funny, twisted gurney. I thought, nothing can come out of that, surely. But he did. He continued to speak.
You're trying too hard, darling.
No, honestly, Nicholas, you didn't see his face. It was weird.
I know, but he didn't hesitate, did he?
It was extraordinary that he didn't.
I know, but the audience loved it.
Keep going, Gyles.
Are we allowed to get points because Gyles is weird?
He's not weird, he's clever, but does make faces. Right, 35 seconds.
That could be a school report. Clever, but does make faces. Boris Johnson.
Right, Gyles, an incorrect challenge.
Yeah.
There are 35 seconds. Food allergies, starting now.
The big mistake was ordering chili con lobster. Not a dish, really, for somebody with a delicate constitution like myself. And the consequences were terrible rashes all over some rather intimate parts of my anatomy, really where the varicose veins are. And I felt most uncomfortable about this and thought I must avoid food-allergic things in the future. And that is why I began to eat Crispies. That's all, with a little bit of milk from a beautiful young doe that I keep at the end of the garden with the goat who provides all my cheese requirements, and that little chicken that lays sweet eggs that never give me any kind of food allergy at all, but make me go cock-a-doodle.
So Gyles Brandreth was speaking there, and as the whistle went and gained that extra point. And Ross, it's your turn to begin. I don't know whether this is your subject, but here it is, Elvis Presley. Tell us something about the great Elvis in this game, starting now.
Elvis Presley, or as he was often known, Elvis the Pelvis. Not many people know that he was almost called Enos, but luckily he wasn't, as that would have caused a lot of trouble, especially at Derby and Joan clubs, which is where he got his initial start. Many people think that it was playing around the south of America, but no, he would travel to old folks' homes where he would gyrate before them, and the energy given off by him would restart their hearts when they slipped off. He was actually available on prescription earlier. He never visited England, of course, and that's because he hated travelling to...
Paul Challenge.
Don't go, I'm really quite glad. I've run out of all words.
Paul, you challenge.
It was a hesitation.
It was a hesitation. So you have a correct challenge, another point, and you have 17 seconds. Elvis Presley starting now.
Well, I just want to Who buzzed then? Who buzzed then?
Ross did.
Was that an Elvis impersonation, or have you had a stroke?
Well, it's actually Elvis having a stroke. I was about to go into all shook up.
Ross, because we enjoyed your interruption, we'll give you a bonus point for that.
Thank you.
Paul was interrupted, so he keeps the subject. 16 seconds. Elvis Presley starting now.
I just want to say, ladies and...
Ross,
Well, that's repetition. He just did the same.
No. It's any bit I can do.
Not repetition of the voice, but not the words.
He went on.
He's nicking my material.
No, he wasn't. He didn't repeat anything he'd said before.
No.
So there are 14 seconds this time.
Oh, so hang on. So if you're allowed to just go...
I'm further away
I
from...
remember that. Oh, yeah.
I'm further away from him than you are.
You're further away from most people.
Because I'm on your side here.
You're on my side, you're my side.
I'll tell you what, Nicholas. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt.
All right, Clary. Put me down for 1 point up there, will you?
1 point for Nicholas.
1 point for Nicholas, right. No, I can make out the words he said. I don't know what they were now, but they were reasonably distinct. And 14 seconds still with you, Paul. Elvis Presley, starting now.
Elvis Presley recorded, first of all, for Sun Records, and this was roughly in the mid-1950s, and he then moved on to RCA, having spelt a bit in the army where he said to himself, I don't...
So at the end of that round, Paul Merton was speaker's whistle when again the extra point. He's moved forward. He's just behind Gyles, one ahead of Ross Noble and Jenny Eclair, who's one behind. They're all, well, pretty even, actually. And Paul, we'd like you to begin the next round. I think it's your turn. The subject is My Plan B. 60 seconds, as usual, starting now.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, my plan B is to get Elvis. And this is what he did. My plan B is to find a plan A. I don't really have one of those. If that doesn't work, I will depend on plan B coming into my consciousness and saying, give up the world of show business, find life on the buses, do a conductor's job on the 159. And then I shall repeat, but that particular route is long discontinued.
Right. Gyles, you challenge.
I interrupted before he'd told us it was long discontinued.
Yes.
I was going to point that out.
It was very bad advice. There's no conductors on the 159 route, or indeed any bus routes these days.
There's still
in London.
159.
Yeah, it goes from
I'm
Baker
getting
Street
it
to
home.
Streatham.
But no conductors.
Yeah, it's a 159. It ends up at Telford Avenue, Streatham Hill. Look at me, Nicholas. I'm talking here. Streatham Hill.
I was fascinated by Jenny knowing about the 159.
Oh, really?
What's Streatham Hill?
What's Streatham Hill?
No, what? I said what? Streatham Hill.
Streatham Hill.
Streatham Hill.
Yes.
Okay. No, I'm just...
It's where the 159 goes.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Mornington Crescent. Oh, no, sorry. Wrong game. Sorry, it's...
Give Ross a bonus
it's the
point.
wrong
We
show.
did
I
like that
forgot
one,
where I
yes.
was.
That's another game, yes. I'm sorry, I haven't a clue. Right. Who interrupted who?
I interrupted.
Yeah, you did, and you've got a correct challenge, and you have 39 seconds, Gyles. My plan B starting now.
I think of my plan B as a phrase that refers to the government, and the Chancellor of the Exchequer's remark often that he has no plan B. I love the coalition. Those two gorgeous posh boys, Nick and Dave, coming together, pinkies touching, not actually holding hands, but wonderful. They look...
Jenny challenge.
I'm going to be sick. It's slight deviation from the subject matter. He seems to be obsessed
it's not.
with
It's not.
Dave and Nick.
It's
the
not.
boys, the lovely boys.
Can I say it's twin beds? It's not deviation.
No, I don't think he was actually deviating from the subject, sir. So you have the benefit of the doubt, Gyles, and if I can redress the balance, Jenny, later I will give the benefit
Thank
to
you,
you.
Nicholas.
And there are 24 seconds for Gyles on my plan B starting now.
When the people spoke and I ceased to be a member of Parliament, I required a plan B and phoned up Nicholas Parsons and said, I sound a bit like Derek Nimmo. Now that the great man is no longer with us, do you think I'd come along? I particularly have the hots for Jenny Eclair, so I would like to be there on the weeks that she is there. And Ross Noble and his young boyfriend who comes from Hawaii. Paul Merton may turn up, who knows? It depends if the bus has a conductor any longer.
So Gyles Brandreth, speaking as a whistle when, gained that extra point and has increased his lead at the end of that round. He's not very far ahead of Ross Noble and Paul Merton, who are equal in second place, then Jenny Eclair. And Gyles, we're back with you to begin. And the subject is learning Latin. I don't know whether you are a Latin scholar, whether you did it at school, but talk on the subject if you can. 60 seconds starting now.
Many don't get much beyond thinking in loco parentis means my dad's an engine driver. But at school, I was indeed taught Latin.
Jenny, challenge.
Doesn't mean that.
I know it doesn't. But I think we established that a lot of people think it might mean that, because they didn't learn Latin.
I learnt Latin.
I know, but his point was, that was... Actually, Jenny, should I tell a comedian that that was a joke, actually?
I didn't get it. I didn't like it.
Can I give her the benefit of the doubt this time, Gyles?
I'd like you to.
All right. You're in a strong lead. I give the benefit of the doubt to Jenny, and it is learning Latin, 54 seconds, starting now.
I learnt Latin in a peculiar fashion, modern ways. Cambridge, it was called. You just recognise words. Gregor est coccus. Gregory is a cook. That's what I learned. In the end, by the time you got to O-level, you could...
Gyles, challenge.
Repetition of learnt.
Yes?
Yeah. I didn't learn anything. I was asleep.
So, Gyles, you've got it back
again.
again. You've got another point. You have 39 seconds learning Latin, starting now.
A mo, a mass, a mat, a marmus, a martis, a mant. Went Mr. Stocks, my excellent Latin master. He was a sweet and lovely man, though his assistant liked to wield the cane if you got the conjugations wrong, and therefore one would go into class with Latin primers down your trousers. Because if things went awry and you confused the Punic Wars with the Gallic ones, you were in trouble. Latin, of course, is not a dead language. It is immortal. You can look at any building and see glorious instructions there, or vice versa.
Ross, challenge.
There's a netto near where my mum lives. There's not a bit of Latin on it.
No.
Unless netto is nettous bargainus maximus. I would say deviation from architecture.
Yeah.
All right. I'm giving benefits of the doubts around, so you've had one, Jenny's had one, Ross, you've got a benefit of the doubt, and you have 7 seconds on learning Latin starting now.
I am trying to learn Latin as we speak from those...
Paul, challenge.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
Not as we speak.
Yeah, we have. Look at them books down there. Look at that.
Oh, you spoiled it now.
There's no books down there.
I thought you were learning
God,
Latin.
I've been robbed.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing. At the risk of... Like, I don't mean to be racist, but that's the problem with these Latin people.
Yeah.
They come over here,
Ross.
taking our jobs...
Ross, I'm about to give it to you.
Oh, are you?
Because you could well say...
No, Nicholas, please don't. I've got coursework to do.
He's learning Latin as we speak. As we speak, he's learning Latin.
What? Sorry. I've got a dwarf under there with a textbook.
Because I thought
He
the
told me
point...
it was a textbook.
I thought the point you were making, and it's justifiable, is that they were giving some Latin phrases over there on the other side of the stage, and therefore you were picking up, and you were learning some Latin.
That's exactly what I was doing. He's not
So you went off into your books. I was trying to save you.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm still going to leave it with you and say you've got 4 seconds on learning Latin starting now.
Talkinus nonsimus. That is my
Paul challenge.
Latin.
You mentioned earlier the benefit of the doubt, and we've handed them out. I'd like a benefit of the doubt.
Yes. Well, you can, because Norcius Latinus is not learning anything to do with Latin. So
But he's
you...
only picking it up now, so I mean, you've got to give him a chance.
No.
But no, I don't think that's Latin.
He's rubbish, this bloke.
It doesn't matter. He's got the benefit of the doubt, and he's got the subject, and he's got a point and 2 seconds learning Latin, Paul, starting now.
The first word...
Ross challenge.
That wasn't Latin, that was English he was speaking there. Now, I know I've not been learning it long, but I know that much.
The subject isn't speaking Latin, it's learning Latin.
It's learning Latin, not speaking
Yeah,
Latin.
well, I don't know it, so how am I supposed to... If he's going to talk in the... Yeah, come on.
Ross, you're being very funny, but rather difficult.
Funny enough, that's what my headmaster said, yeah.
Paul, I've got another incorrect challenge, a point. 1 second available, learning Latin starting now.
It was fantastic. I had a wonderful
So Paul, the speaker as the whistle went, has leapt forward. He's still in second place, trailing Gyles just ahead of Ross and Jenny. And Jenny, it's your turn to begin. The subject is coping with embarrassment. I'm not sure you have much in your life, but tell us something about it, starting now.
The trick to coping with embarrassment is to grow the hide of a rhinoceros and to pretend when things go wrong. It doesn't matter. It's funny. Say a breast falls out of your top. Leave it there. Leave it hanging. It doesn't really matter, does it? Two leaves don't like a right, I know.
Repetition of leave. When a breast falls out of your top... well, let's not go through it again, but I mean, anyway... People will be replaying that for years, and will know...
I know, I was looking at it at the time, and the image was really rather embarrassing.
I wasn't embarrassed.
I know you weren't, Danny, you never are.
I was going to leave it hanging.
46 seconds for you, Gyles, on coping with embarrassment, starting now.
Quod erat demonstrandum was the phrase I used in embarrassing...
Start with me. I'm only a chapter in.
An incorrect interruption. So, Gyles, you've still got the subject. 43 seconds. Coping with embarrassment, starting now.
I had an embarrassing experience with Margaret Thatcher, a lady of many qualities but has no sense of humour. Must have made bringing up Mark pretty difficult. Anyway, the embarrassing incident occurred when I turned up with a draft speech for her, including a little joke that I had written that I thought she would enjoy using at the party conference. It was borrowed from Monty Python. It was the dead parrot sketch, and I was going to make it about the bird used by the Liberal Democrats.
Oh, yes.
There was a hesitation.
There was a hesitation. 17 seconds, Paul. Coping with embarrassment, starting now.
Well, it's very difficult when you find yourself in a very embarrassing situation. Here I am, buzzing Giles Brandreth, when he had an excellent anecdote to tell us about Margaret Thatcher, and all I'm doing is referring to what he was saying, which in some ways could be repetition, but luckily I'm not using any of the same words. Hesitation and deviation are also an embarrassing thing to make in this...
So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. Well, let me give you the situation. We're moving into the final round. Jenny is trailing a little in fourth place, and Ross is the same. Great contribution, but trailing a little in third place. And Paul is 2 points behind our leader, who's still Gyles Brandreth. And Ross, it's your turn to begin. Answer machine messages. What a good subject. Tell us something about them in this game, starting now.
If the machines rise up to destroy us, I will answer their messages when they approach the door and start saying, "We will kill you all." I'll say, "I don't think so." I'll unplug you and then push you down the stairs.
Jenny challenged.
Slight hesitation.
There was a slight
I was getting attacked by machines that had risen up to destroy us all.
So, Jenny, you have 46 seconds. Answer machine messages, starting now.
I used to love coming home and seeing that little red eye winking in the corner of the room saying, "You've got messages." You'd press a button, one message, maybe more. Not often. Often, actually, there'd be, yes, too often.
Gyles challenged.
Repetition of often.
Often, yes. Well done, Gyles. 34 seconds with Gyles. Answer machine messages, starting now.
I was rather touched earlier this evening. I telephoned an old friend of mine who'd been a wing commander in the Royal Air Force, and it said when I telephoned through to him that wonderful phrase, "per ardua ad astra." And there I thought a man who has gone close to the heavens in the sky, but also was properly educated. Nihil obstat is my response to that. That was the droll message I left for him, knowing that we Latinists should get together.
Jenny challenged.
To that. I'm sorry to get really picky and pedanty, but I don't understand what he's talking about. I've got to stop him.
Jenny. You say you're not good at the game, but you're very sharp, and you got in again with 10 seconds to go on answer machine messages, starting now.
Hello, this is the lady from the dry cleaners up Stretton Hill. We've got your calotte set for you. Would you like to come and pick it up?
No.
So Jenny Eclair was then speaking as the whistle went and gained that extra point for doing so. And she has moved forward, not very far, but she's moved. And she's moved just ahead of Ross Noble, but actually they're equal together in third place. Where we have an interesting situation. Paul, who did extremely well, got a lot of points, but the one who got most points and was 3 ahead of Paul was Gyles Brandreth. So we say, Gyles, you are our winner this week. So, it only remains me to say thank you to these 4 fine players of the game, Gyles Brandreth, Jenny Eclair, Ross Noble and Paul Merton. I thank Sharon Leonard, who's helped me keep the score and blown her whistle so well. We thank our producer, Claire Jones, and we also are indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game, and we're grateful to this lovely audience here in the Radio Theatre, who've cheered us on our way. So from the audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, goodbye, thank you, and tune in again the next time we play Just a Minute! Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Thank you. Hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners from around the world, and also to welcome to the programme 4 exciting and talented players of this game. And they are seated on my right, Paul Merton and Charles Collingwood, and seated on my left, Sue Perkins and Julian Clary. Please welcome all 4 of them. Beside me sits Sarah Sharp, who's going to help me keep the score and blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. As usual, I will ask them to speak on a subject that I will give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation, if they possibly can. And we'll begin with Paul Merton. Paul, the subject I've got here is what I've got in my attic. Can you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
What I've got in my attic, it's been a while since I was up in the attic, but I seem to remember there are lots of comics from my golden teenage years. I used to collect such publications as Rover, and Roy of the Rovers was another particular magazine that I subscribed to. I remember also up there are...
Ah, yes, and Julian, you challenged.
Repetition of remember.
Yes, at the beginning you said I remember.
Yes, that's
yes,
right,
you did, right. So that's the correct challenge. That's a laugh on nothing at all, it's lovely.
Let's knock it, it's all we've got.
So, Julian, a correct challenge. You get a point for that, of course. You take over the subject, and there are 43 seconds available, starting now.
What I've got in my attic is really a trip down memory lane to all the highlights of my youth. There's a rugby ball from when I was in the first 15. Happy days. A pair of swimming trunks from when I did my synchronised swimming in the...
Sue, challenge.
Swimming. Repeat of swimming.
Yes, that's right. Synchronised swimming. Right. And synchronised swimming. Sue, a correct challenge. A point to you. And 27 seconds still available. What I've got in my attic, starting now.
What I've got in my attic is a perfect picture of myself as a young woman, fresh-faced and rosy-cheeked, while the real me decays day in and month out. I think I might write a novel about it. Incredibly interesting to see the disparity between the two things. Myself, that decrepit crone aged 80, descending the stairs to the loft, which I've put in the basement area because I'm capricious that way. How I love an underground floor.
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. On this occasion, it was Sue Perkins, and so she has 2, and she's in the lead at the end of the round. And Julian, we'd like you to begin the next round. A lovely subject, clowns. Will you tell us something about clowns in this game, starting now?
Clowns, what a lovely subject. I think if you gave me a stepladder and a bucket of whitewash, I could amuse you for hours with my inner clown. No sordid innuendo, it would just be mime, falling over, spinning around, knocking over people that were passing by. It would be an entertainment to rival any other. Clowns I first encountered when I was a child at the circus, like everyone else. They came on between the elephants and the jugglers. audience, and I liked to see men wearing makeup. I think probably that's where my interest in the subject first happened. Clowns would sometimes involve the audience.
Charles Challenge.
I'm sure he said sometimes earlier. I'm sure it's a repetition of sometimes. Nicholas, you don't look certain, but I'm absolutely positive.
That's the way to get the point.
She thinks sometimes.
It's just a nervous tick I have. I wouldn't like that.
Yes, all right, Charles. The benefit of the doubt.
Benefit of the doubt? Right.
Yes, because there is some doubt, and I will try and redress the balance, Julian, later on if I get an opportunity. You have 23 seconds. Tell us something about clowns starting now.
I'm not mad about clowns, although when I go to be entertained by them, I like them to hurt themselves. If they're just trying to be funny, I don't see any point with the exploding car if it doesn't actually make them really go, ow! But in fact, the thought of being a clown myself is more than I can bear, although I believe that with that lovely...
So Charles Collingwood was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, and he's now equal in the lead with Sue Perkins at the end of that round. And Charles, we'd like you to begin the next round. Americanisms. Can you tell us something about those in this game, starting now?
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry to introduce a rather sour note earlier in on this programme, but I'm absolutely against Americanisms. I don't see the point of why our beautiful language should be insulted.
Sue, challenge.
I mean, this is racism. There needs to be a new category.
What sense racism?
There was a slight hesitation, ironically, as he was discussing the beauty of the English language on insult.
But are you going for hesitation or deviation?
I don't think racism falls within the rule remit of just a minute. I mean, one day it might well. Cultural racism, I think, should be installed along with repetition, hesitation, deviation.
I think you're talking
cultural
yourself into...
stereotype. Goodbye.
Yes. You talk very well to try and get the point, but I disagree with you, Sue. So,
thank you.
Charles, you've got an incorrect challenge, a point for that, and 47 seconds still available. Americanisms starting now.
I find it infuriating if somebody says, have a nice day. Why don't they put please on the end? I will not be forced into enjoying myself when perhaps I actually want to wander around being rather miserable for the entire time of 24 hours. But nonetheless, as I said earlier on, I am relieved to know...
Paul, challenge.
Repetition, because he said it earlier on.
Yes, Paul, I think that was a lovely interruption. I'll give you a bonus point for that. But he actually was saying it within the context of this, his diatribe about Americanism. So technically, within the rules of just a minute, he wasn't deviating. So, Charles, benefit of the doubt, you're still with it, and you still have 28 seconds, Americanisms starting now.
What reassures me is that as I make this little speech to you all around the nation... Oh, no, I must stop now, because I really...
Sue, challenge.
Hesitation.
Hesitation, yes. Sue, you've got Americanisms. Well, you don't have it, but that's the subject. And 21 seconds starting now.
Touching base. Who wants to do that when one is not certain of the area you might be putting fingers on? I've no idea. It was said to me once at a meeting, along with running a flagpole up something. Probably a flag.
Was it running a flag up the flagpole to see if somebody
right.
saluted, not running up the flagpole?
Yeah, they were very confused, Americans.
They were confused.
Paul, a correct challenge, yes. It was not running a flagpole up. Paul, 9 seconds. Americanisms are starting now.
Well, I've known this town ever since the gold rush back in 1865. And you can say, oh, Jeff, he's got a mouthful of teeth, but he don't know what he's saying. Well, I think...
So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went and gained that extra point for doing so. And Charles is now in the lead, just 1 point ahead of all the others. And Sue Perkins, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject is amusement parks. Will you tell us something about those in this game starting now?
The amusement of amusement parks is somewhat of a misnomer, as that is not the emotion it conjures up in me. Rather terror or feelings of mild peril, as they might say if they were censoring films. Now, I don't think that any entertainment should be given a height restriction or a warning you might suffer a coronary during it. There are some types of physical exertion I would happily have a heart attack for, but none that I'd reveal in public. However, for some reason...
Charles, challenge.
She said some. At least 2 times.
Yes.
Well, it's called repetition. I mean, can I have a list of the words you are allowed to say twice?
No, Charles, I mean, it's a correct challenge, and it's just that sometimes they have a little generosity of spirit, which the audience reaction showed they didn't enjoy that idea.
Well, tough is all I say.
Oh, well, the gloves are off, aren't they? So, Charles, it is a correct challenge, so I have to give it to you. Until you have 31 seconds, amusement parks starting now.
I've always longed to work in a fairground and hang on to the back of the Dodgem car and collect the money and then hop rather sexily to the next car to receive their...
Paul Charles.
In the middle of his sexual adventures, repetition of car.
Oh, repetition of car.
Shorter word than some.
But it also is a very strong noun. Paul, 22 seconds for you on amusement parks, starting now.
Some people go to amusement parks to have the wits scared out of them. They like to sit in the roller coaster as it goes to the top of the hill before it plummets down that massive descent and takes you all around the track and deposits you back where you started from about a minute and a half later than when you'd set off. Amusement parks became very popular at the turn of the 19th century. People would flock to places like Coney Island in America, where...
So Paul Merton again, speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point for doing so. He's equal with Charles Collingwood in the lead now, followed by Sue Perkins and Julian Clary in that order. And Paul, we'd like you to begin the next round. Rewriting history. 60 seconds starting now.
Well, there's a saying, isn't there, that history is written by the victors, but there is also an opportunity to rewrite history if other people don't remember the particulars of the dates and the events that you're talking about. For example, you could say, well, I became hugely popular on the London cabaret circuit in 1983. I had various people coming up to me offering me all kinds of work, mainly of a labouring variety, but I found that after a while I was able to say to them, I am the king of Norway. I am the king of Norway.
Would it have got much of a laugh, I wonder?
Yeah.
Right. Julian, you challenge first.
Hesitation.
Yes, indeed. So you have 32...
I don't like to tell people, you know.
32 seconds on rewriting history starting now.
I think it's a marvellous idea to rewrite history. In my case, we could say that I married the Duchess of York and we lived happily ever after. To cheerful, if challenged...
Sue, you challenge.
Yes, hesitation.
Hesitation, Sue, correct challenge.
It was about to be treason as well.
No, 22 seconds. Rewriting history starting now.
I would be delighted if history were rewritten, and then I could look upon the King of Norway in an entirely new light, as well as the brand new beau of the Duchess of York. Extraordinary, you may think, that she'd be stepping out with such a gorgeous young man, and yet produce children who wear bizarre fascinators at weddings that look like an upside-down skyscraper perched on one of their Titian heads. I myself would opt
I think you were saved by the whistle then, Sue. You were just getting into very dangerous territory, weren't you? Anyway, you were speaking as a whistle when, getting that extra point, and now you are equal with Charles Collingwood and Paul Merton in the lead, just ahead of Julian Clary. And Julian, we'd like you to begin the next round. Oh, singing in the shower. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
Singing in the shower is the perfect way to begin your day. I favour Aretha Franklin. Only this morning, as the larks were singing, there I was going R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Find out what it means to me. I've got a...
Paul challenge.
Repetition of E. That's what it means to me, anyway.
Can you, it's only one letter, though,
You should have gone for D-I-V-O-R-C-E.
Yeah.
You know, that would have saved.
Thank you very much.
Well, I suppose when the rules are just a minute, it's the correct challenge, isn't it? And you have 46 seconds singing in the shower, starting now, Paul.
When I'm singing in the shower, I like to belt out show standards from the musicals of the 1930s. Who can forget something like The Gold Diggers of 1933? I can, because I never see it.
Julian challenge.
Repetition of I.
Didn't like the E challenge much then.
36 seconds, Julian, singing in the shower, starting now.
I've got a lovely voice, and people gather at the window, and it puts them all in a very jolly mood. Singing in the shower is something that my mother taught me when I was sitting on her knee. She said, Julian, my boy, whatever you do in life, always sing in the shower. It's something you can...
Sue Challenge.
Repetition of sing. Is it singing on the card?
Oh, yes, in the card,
I
which
like
you
to
can
sing
repeat
and then
anything. It's singing in the shower.
Sing in the shower.
And he talked about sing. Well, listen, Sue, and you have 18 seconds. You tell us something now about singing in the shower, starting now.
Singing in the Shower was the prequel to Singing in the Rain, but the box office wasn't so good, featuring Gene Kelly in the nude under an enormous sprinkler. However marginal that DVD release was...
Charles.
That's deviation because it did not feature Gene Kelly in the nude under an enormous sprinkler.
Oh, it did?
It did? No, it did not. Well, how come I missed it? I mean...
Well, that's just your life,
But that
Charles,
was
isn't it?
deviation. Absolutely.
We can't cope with the breadth of your ignorance. Where are we going to be? Just because you haven't heard of it, I mean, you know. Singing in the shower, Gene Kelly, very well.
Well, there we are.
No, I was trying to give her the benefit of the doubt as I gave it to you before,
right.
Charles. I'll have to give it to you again because you were correct. 5 seconds on singing in the shower, starting now.
Whenever I sing in the shower.
Hesitation.
No. I'll give Paul a bonus point for that because we enjoyed his interruption. But you were interrupted, so you get another point, Charles. And you've got singing in the shower and 3 seconds starting now.
My love of singing in the shower.
Julian Challenge.
Hesitation? I'm very low on points, Nicholas.
Give Julian a bonus point for that. Charles, we're still with you. 2 seconds on singing. You're there, are you?
Yes.
Right. Singing in the shower, starting now.
This morning at 7:30, I arose...
Paul Challenge.
Didn't we have morning before?
Oh, shut up.
Repetition of morning.
Yes, you said you were
I've
singing.
only said about 3 words. And... Well, they were all morning, were they? Oh, well. Morning.
Paul, half a second on singing in the shower, starting now.
Singing!
So, the end of that round, Paul Merton was speaking. The whistle went, has increased his lead, just ahead of Charles Collingwood, who's just ahead of Sue Perkins, and she is just ahead of Julian Clary. That's the sequence. And, Charles, we'd like you to begin the next round. Sydney, that is the subject. Tell us something about it in this game, starting now.
I've never been to Australia, principally because I have a terrible fear of little tiny funnel web spiders, which inhabit Sydney from length to breadth. And I'm...
Sue Challenge.
That is a massive spider.
That's why it's terrifying.
I had no idea.
Massive. It's the size of Tasmania.
Extraordinary.
Yes, enormous.
You know, listen and learn, darling.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say that was deviation because they're not... Sydney, I've been there. There's not spiders from one side to the next. The other interpretation...
Sydney,
Are you
they're in the
challenging me
outback.
now, Nicholas?
We're challenging
I
on
give-
geographical accuracy.
I'm challenging his anatomical description. No, but Sue, benefit of the doubt to you. You have 49 seconds on Sydney, starting now.
I will never go to Australia because I have been told that one enormous spider that stretches from Queensland to Magnetic Island waits there. It's a sort of revenge attack for sending people over to Botany Bay. It's an anti-colonial arachnid that awaits anyone who may well be unfortunate enough to visit the Antipodes. But in all seriousness, I think Sydney is a beautiful place for one simple reason. The finest opera house in the entire world, which sits overlooking the water and within its glorious walls has contained some of the finest vocalists in the entire planet. The acoustics...
Charles
We had two entires.
You did have in two entires there, yes. So, Charles, you've got in there, back in, I should say, on 13 seconds, Sydney, starting now.
I have had a lifelong love of cricket, and it's quite a sad thing that I will never go there to watch a test match being played because I'm very nervous of the little rats that you can find.
Do we have little before?
Yes, a little.
Oh,
Little funnel web.
Oh, little spider. No, but the spider was huge, according to her.
Yeah, but they stretch from end to end at Sydney.
So...
Paul, you've got in once again with 1 second to go.
Oh, dear.
Sydney, starting now.
I wouldn't put it there, mate.
So Paul was speaking as a whistle when increased his lead at the end of the round. And Sue, we'd like you to start the next round. Dadaism. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
An American art critic once said that Dadaism was the sickest and darkest thing ever to originate from the human brain. This is not true, it's the X Factor. However, this was in the 1920s when Dadaism hit its full force. It originates from the home of the cuckoo clock and Nazi gold, Switzerland. But from there, it emanated outwards as far as Africa and certainly hit big in the Balkans and also the UK. How to describe Dadaism? It's very hard because it's anti-everything. War, the bourgeoisie, society as we know it, money, colonialism, capitalism. It serves as a gigantic two fingers pointed towards anybody who's ever wanted to conceive of life as something that operates within narrow constraints. Art, literature, music, architecture resounded with the enormous splurging of madness that this extraordinary force of nature brought upon us, lasting way, way, way into It's okay, winning is not for Dadaists.
Challenge.
Well, it was way, way.
He was way, way.
Oh, it was way, way, yes.
Was way,
Who's
way.
also an artist, of course, who's not a Dadaist.
But if you hadn't said... You just
Tell me
said
how bad it was. Tell me how bad.
If you went for 59 seconds.
Oh!
If you left out one way, you'd have gone for the silver 60.
Hey.
What a pity. No, we'll give her a bonus point anyway, because 59 seconds she deserves. And so it was a correct challenge, Paul, so entitled to the subject, with 1 second to go on Dadaism, starting now.
It shows you how hard it is.
Paul again was speaking as the whistle went and has increased his lead. And Paul, we're back with you to begin. Oh, the subject, my Olympic dreams. 60 seconds. Starting now.
My Olympic dream is that I will be able to train to the utmost in my discipline, and when I take on the rest of the world in my sporting activities, I will be able to show them my head held high that I am a true Brit. I will not be taking drugs. I shall be adopting the strongest physical attributes that I can adopt. Adopt twice.
Sue, challenge.
Adopt.
Too much adopting.
Too
yes,
adopt, yeah.
Right. 42 seconds, Sue. My Olympic dreams starting now.
I fancy the velodrome, not in a personal way. I just think maybe cycling might be for me. I worry, however, about the jodhpur-style legs you can get. They never look good on a woman. These hulking quads you get from pedalling around endlessly. So I might turn my attentions to swimming. Look at me, I'm a coquette. It's a female prerogative. We change our mind about which sport we might want to excel in every single second. I, however, am tempted by lacrosse.
Julian, challenge.
Hesitation?
There was a bit. She was running down a bit, wasn't she, at one point? I thought it was deviation, too. You can't change your mind about the sport you're going to do. You have to train for one sport intensely hard.
Well, they say that, Nicholas. They say that. But beach volleyball, come on.
Oh, right. But you'd like to take part in every sport there, would you?
I'd give it a go.
You'd give it a go. Julian, benefit of the doubt. 16 seconds. My Olympic dreams are starting now.
My Olympic dreams are coming along nicely. Oh, the Olympic Village. How I long to check in there. My chosen field, which I know you're wondering about, is gymnastics. The rings is what I'm expecting to take a bronze for. I'll mount...
So Julian Clary was speaking as a whistle when gained an extra point is creeping up on the others. I mean only in the game. I don't misunderstand me. He's just behind Charles Collingwood, a little bit way behind Sue Perkins. Paul's in the lead. And Julian, it is your turn to begin. The subject is putting your foot in it. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
Putting Your Foot in It was a sitcom in the late 80s, which I starred in with Peggy Mount, who played my wife. The general scenario that I was a closet homosexual and nobody knew. Each week, my spouse...
Charles, challenge.
There was a bit of a hesitation.
There was a
going
hesitation,
there,
Charles.
which was jolly sad, because I was looking forward to hearing about
You could have
this.
let him go, couldn't you?
I could have let it go,
Yes.
but that's not playing the game correctly, as far as I know.
Oh, I think the fun's more important, Charles.
Well, it was fun.
Yes. 46 seconds starting now.
This is an affliction I tend to use rather more often than I should. I wish I was a little more tactful in life, but every now and again I find myself in a room with my wife and I cannot remember her name. And people just think this is disgraceful. But fortunately, she says he's just stupid, not conceited, and I get away with it. But putting one's foot in it can, of course, mean lowering one's foot into something...
Sue challenge.
Repetition of ones?
Yes, because it's putting your foot in it as a subject.
So I repeated ones, did I?
Yes, you did repeat ones.
Okay.
So Sue is back with you. 19 seconds starting now.
I once put my foot in it with Suzanne Vega, who was an extremely successful singer who came on a programme I did, didn't recognise her and thought she was a member of the audience, suddenly turned up in the third part of the programme promoting an album, and I felt like a right idiot. If only I could have turned back time. However, as we've conclusively proved today, that's not possible. She looked at me...
Oh, I've just had a word that we're moving into the final round.
Oh.
So, as I do, I'll give you the situation. Is that Julian is trailing a little behind Charles Collingwood, who did have the lead for a time. He's 3 or 4 points behind Sue Perkins, and she's about 3 points behind Paul Merton. And Charles Collingwood, it's your turn to begin. And the subject now is my 6th sense. 6 cents, Charles. 60 seconds, starting now.
Before I develop this subject, I would like to say, as an actor, I'm able to say my 6th sense rather beautifully. Many actors can't say 6th, they say 5th, which is awful. But going back to the subject on the card, which is my 6th...
Sue challenged.
Well, deviation. He said going back to the subject on the card, which means he must have removed himself from the subject from the card and therefore deviated.
Underground train coming in there.
Yeah, I think that's a very clever challenge, and it's correct. She was. You had removed yourself from the subject by your own admission, Charles.
All right.
I should explain to my listeners, he's looking very hurt now. 46 seconds, Sue, on my 6th sense, starting now.
I see dead people all the time.
It's called doing just a minute.
That's absolutely wicked. Give him a bonus point because we enjoyed the show. But, Sue, you got a point for being interrupted. You have my 6th sense. 43 seconds starting now.
That was a quote, of course, from the film The Sixth Sense, in which Bruce Willis played a man who was permanently befuddled by the fact that no one talked to him. Ultimately, at the end, and I don't wish to issue a spoiler, it turns out he was of the departed variety of human being. However, I notice in the audience some of you haven't seen it, and therefore will be pursuing me with pitchforks, vengeful, because they were looking forward to watching it this evening on DVD. It is...
Paul Sanders.
Repetition of D.
So you talk about my 6th sense. 18 seconds starting now.
Extrasensory perception is a hell of a 6th sense to have. It's a bit of a curse, a burden perhaps. Sometimes I look into the future and I can see the ghastly hands of fate grab my neck and pull me towards my ultimate death, which I am pleased to say I've recently found out will happen on October...
So Paul Merton speaking as a whistle when gained the extra point, and the final situation is Julian Clary, who's triumphed in the past sometimes, finished in a very strong 4th place. Then Charles Collingwood, who's not played it so often, did a very sturdy 3rd place. Sue Perkins was 2nd. But out in the lead, a few points ahead of Sue, was Paul Merton, so we say, Paul, you are our winner this week. We do hope you've enjoyed this edition of Just a Minute. It only remains to say thank you to these 4 fine players of the game. I thank Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score. We thank our producer, Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're grateful to this lovely audience here in the Radio Theatre. From them, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, goodbye. Tune in the next time we play Just a Minute. Welcome to Just a Minute. Oh, thank you. Thank Nicholas Parsons. And as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners around the world, but also to welcome to the show 4 exciting and talented players of this game. And they are seated on my right, Paul Merton and Lisa Tarbuck, and seated on my left, Kit Hesketh-Harvey and Josie Lawrence. Please welcome all 4 of them. Beside me sits Sharon Leonard, who's going to help me keep the score and blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. Paul, will you please take the first subject and start the show for us? And this one is the perfect lie-in. Would you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
I've had several perfect lie-ins, particularly in the late 1970s, early 80s, when I used to work at Tooting Employment Office, and the joy of waking up on a Saturday morning, thinking it was a weekday, then realising it wasn't, and you could stay in bed. And I think that was very typical of my work experience. Of course, when you have somebody who is not always...
Oh, Kit, you challenged.
There was a bit of a hesitation, I'm afraid.
Well, there was a definite
It was a definite It was an game there.
Yes, so that's a hesitation. Yeah. So, Kit, the correct challenge. You get a point for that, of course. And you have 40 seconds still available. The perfect lie-in starting now.
Vita Sackville West, the noted Kentish authoress and aristocrat, defined luxury as lying on linen sheets, listening to wood pigeons cooing. Mind you, she probably had Virginia Woolf and a damn fine pair of secretaries in there with her. But her compatriot, friend and contemporary Stephen Tennant I once interviewed for the BBC, lying in his... Oh, no, I've done it!
Yes, you've done it.
Classic.
Yes, it's the time since you played and you missed it, didn't you?
It is, I'm sorry, it's the
Paul,
big
we know the
F1
challenge,
trap,
isn't
Repetition
it?
of B, as in
Yeah.
BBC.
B, you see.
Oh, gosh, yes.
So, Paul, the correct challenge, a point to you. 19 seconds are still available. Tell us more about the perfect lie-in starting now.
When I was doing a paper round about the age of 13, I would sometimes, if it was really rainy and cold outside, come up with some excuse not to go to the shop and pick up my daily burden of the whatever newspapers I were delivering at that time.
Lisa,
Is
challenge.
it a repetition of newspapers? Because of...
Newspaper round and newspapers.
Oh, it's...
newspapers.
I'm going to be penalised.
No, darling. He's played it quite a bit before, so we did the singular and the plural.
Oh, has he?
Yes, and no. It's the subtle way it does it. So...
Don't explain all the tricks, old man.
Well, I must let the listeners know why it was...
Exactly.
Yes.
Quite right.
And you've still got 4 seconds, Paul, with an incorrect challenge. Another point. The perfect lie-in starting now. 2
weeks ago, I experienced what was undoubtedly the post-perfect lie-in. It was...
So, at the end of that round, Paul Merton has got most of the points, and he also got one, of course, for speaking, as the whistle went, which everybody does in this game, and he's in the lead. Josie Lawrence, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject here is my ideal date. 60 seconds starting now.
My ideal date would be, well, let's face it, any date would be ideal. People don't tend to ask me out. Boys are scared of me, and I don't know why. But my ideal date would run something like this. First of all, me and my handsome cove would go to the opera. Perhaps to see La Traviata or Madame.
Paul, challenge.
Sorry, are you going to the opera with a cove?
A handsome cove.
A handsome cove, like Herne Bay or something like that. You've given up on the human species. You're now going out with geographical locations.
Yes. I went out with the White Cliffs of Dover 2 weeks ago. They were lovely.
I bet you had a good time and all.
I did.
Josie, yes, I think when you can't talk about the date again, you didn't want to preach the fella, so you called him a cove. Yeah. I think we can use a bit of slang if you want to. And so it was an incorrect challenge. You have a point for that. You keep the subject. 40 seconds are still available. My ideal date starting now.
The music would be romantic and passionate, and my date would look after me so well, perhaps even buying me a packet of Revels in the interval. Then, once it had finished, a limousine would be waiting outside the Coliseum to drive us to the Thames. There'd be a little jetty with a table, a gingham tablecloth, candlelight, a jazz orchestra. The music and the wine would flow.
I'm so sorry, we've had music before. I was so wrapped up, yes, the music with passionate and romantic. But
Yes.
I feel awful that I've nipped you off
I
in your
know.
bud.
You're not going to know whether I let him get it or not now, are you?
Well, I think after all that, it was a foregone conclusion, wasn't it? All that and Traviata.
So, Kit, that was a correct challenge. You have a point for that. And you have 14 seconds still available. My ideal date starting now.
My ideal date would be 1865, the year in which Tristan and Isolde was premiered, Kipling and Yeats were born, and Nicholas Parsons lost his virginity to Good Time Gloria from Golders Green. There was the girl.
I don't know why you laugh about my virginity. Well, not at that, but the date of it, yes. 1865, was it? How did you know, anyway?
Remember Good Time Gloria from Golders Green? She's out there tonight, boy.
Well, as long as you weren't involved, Kit. Right. Kit's got a lot of points in that round. One for speaking as the whistle went. He's now equal with Paul in the lead, and Josie and then Lisa in that order. And Lisa, we'd like you to begin the next round. Camden Town. Tell us something about Camden Town in this game starting now.
Just north of this great big capital city of London is a small village called Camden Town, nestling in the combes of Hampstead Heath. It boasts wonderful and dramatic architecture combined together in the most frightening of ways, depending on what your mental state is. And generally, if I let my nephew go down there, he comes back early and a little bit frightened. I was very lucky to be a member of the National Youth Theatre who based its summer courses at the base of Haverstock Hill. So Camden Town became my playground for about 4 years, and I used to enjoy going to the Roundhouse and Camden Lots stables, where all sorts of interesting little old men would be selling things that they'd dug up in a garden, like bottles or shrimp containers, all of which I have at home still. And I'm very glad to say I thoroughly enjoy a mooch round because the music in Camden's always very good. Apart from...
So that hasn't happened for a while.
Well
Someone
done.
started with a subject and went fluently with it right through. And for 60 seconds.
Well, you say fluently.
That was excellent.
It was fluent,
That was
darling.
very kind.
You didn't
Thank
hesitate, you didn't repeat yourself, and you certainly didn't deviate. And you get a point for speaking when the whistle went, and a bonus point for not being interrupted. That you're still in third place, but... But that was a naughty on me, because you're only 1 point behind Kit and Paul, and 1 point ahead of Josie. And Kit, it's your turn to begin. So would you take, an historical question here. The Ides of March. 60 seconds as usual, Kit. The Ides of March starting now.
Well, you would, wouldn't you? If walking through ancient Rome, minding your own business, which in this case is being a demigod, ruler and conqueror of all known civilizations, bestriding the world like a colossus so that petty men have to peep through your legs, and suddenly a soothsayer comes up to you and says, beware the Ides of March. You'd think, what on earth was he on about? March, a perfectly nice village in Cambridgeshire, quite close to me, in the fen, and the Ides are where the swan feeders and the twitchers who feed these lovely birds at twilight go. Nothing scary about that, surely. You would say, get out of my way, O seer. March on towards your death, assassination by endless stabbings, from Brutus, to whom you would cry, et tu, Brute, and Cassius, who hath a lean and hungry look. All because he said the others should be more specific, these seers, should they not? What was I on about?
I know.
That was bloody brilliant.
Josie, you challenged.
Did I?
You did. You pressed your buzzer, darling, and the light came on.
I don't know.
So...
Sears?
No, it was Seer and
Seer and
Seers.
Seer, no. I was just carried away. I didn't realise. I've done that before with my pressure of my thumb,
Yes, you
haven't
were
I?
so excited you pressed it.
You are brilliant.
It was very sweet of you to say so. I felt moved. I felt moved by the power of the bard within
I
me.
stopped you in your...
My track.
Well, it doesn't matter, so it's an
No.
incorrect challenge.
Yeah.
It's as well
Sorry,
it was.
you get another point.
That's very sweet of you to say that.
Actually, we nearly had another second.
I know.
Right.
Sorry.
To order. I was about to say,
My ideal
impress our
date is
listeners
Josie
by
Lawrence.
saying we nearly had a double whammy there in the sense of 2 people speaking consecutively for a full 60 seconds. We just failed by 4 seconds.
4 seconds. Oh, well, not to worry. No,
because
it's
actually...
only a parlour game.
The thing is, it doesn't make a difference to score, because he gets a point for being interrupted, and he keeps the subject, And he's got 4 seconds
an
to
extra
go.
point anyway.
Starting now.
Now! Oh,
You deserve that, because you were just chatting amongst yourselves. Paul, you challenged.
Well, there was a sudden realisation that now had started, so
Yes,
hesitation.
There was a definite hesitation.
Arrested from
They're
me. I'm so sorry.
carried away with chatting amongst themselves.
She does smell delicious.
Paul, you've got in on the Ides of March with 2.5 seconds to go, starting now.
Et tu, Brute, which of course is Latin for don't you start. Julius Caesar!
So Paul Merton was then speaking as a whistle went gained that extra point, and Kit, you missed out on getting it then because you were chatting away frivolously to your partner on your right.
She's gorgeous.
Paul, will you begin the next round, please? How to belly dance. You don't have to demonstrate, but could you try and describe that in 60 seconds, if possible, starting now?
Well, it's about moving the stomach in an exotic way backwards and forwards. You see old carry-on films where somebody walks into a harem and there's a belly dancer going with some diamond embedded into her navel, and this makes Charles Hawtrey see double and he goes all funny. The cinema's perhaps least convincing heterosexual, but nevertheless, there he is, seduced by the charms of this exotic creature in front of him.
Lisa, challenge.
Is that two exotics?
It might be.
From
Yes,
the
it was.
top, the initial description.
Yeah, it might be.
Yes.
Yeah.
The exotic creature came
Nobody
up again.
knows. Nobody was listening. I
I
wasn't.
think they were carried away, especially with the gyrations you displayed.
Exactly. Thanks very much.
Lisa, you've got a correct challenge. You've got how to belly dance. 38 seconds, starting now.
I'm blessed with all the right equipment for belly dancing. And what I like to do is lift my T-shirt up to just under my breasts, knot it, and then literally just jiggle. And the effect is one that, frankly, handle...
Paul, challenge.
Sorry, where are we? Who are these people?
Do you have a challenge?
No,
you don't.
I've no complaints whatsoever.
Thank you so much.
All right, give Paul a bonus point because we enjoyed the interruption. Lisa gets a point because she was interrupted, and she keeps the subject, how to belly dance, 23 seconds, starting now.
My favourite tunes to belly dance to are actually things that you wouldn't consider appropriate, perhaps. I like, for example, Holst's The Planet. And it is...
Kid, you challenge.
I'm sorry, it was terribly funny, and we all collapsed laughing, but she collapsed
And
laughing.
she dried up.
Hesitation,
But I'll tell you what we'll do to compensate her. Let's give her a bonus point because we enjoyed the images you created with Holst's Planet Suite and you jiggling to it. Oh, the image just throws me. But, Kit, it was a correct challenge. You've got 10 seconds. How to belly dance, starting now.
There's absolutely no point in talking about it on the radio. I am going to get
Oh, my
belly out to do it.
Josie has challenged you.
He seems to have set off some internal alarm.
That sounded like the nuclear alarm going
Yes,
off.
it was your tummy.
Oh, good
And
gosh,
it was
I'm so
right
sorry.
next to me, ladies and gentlemen, all sticking out.
It's called belly dancing.
And, Josie, you challenged him.
Yes, because his belly was sticking all out.
Yeah, but, I mean, have you got a challenge when the
Well,
rules
it was
are just a minute?
deviation, really.
Yes.
It was undulation. It's quite different.
No, I think we'll give you that deviation because this is radio.
Yes,
and you don't do
exactly.
physical demonstrations on radio. So Josie. Oh, Josie.
What?
You've got the subject with half a second to go.
Oh!
Give us a half a second on how to belly dance, starting now.
When I belly dance,
Oh. So Josie had another point then for speaking as the whistle went. She's creeping up on the other three. The other three are equal in the lead, 2 ahead of Josie Lawrence. And who's going to begin the next? Oh, Josie, it's your turn to begin. The subject is clearing out your clutter. Josie, 60 seconds, starting now.
My house is full of clutter. I feel that I exist because of my clutter. It's really just memories from my life, but I realized that I had to do something about the clutter when a friend of mine, a couple of months ago, said, "Where'd you keep the loo paper?" And I didn't see them again for 4 days. They'd fallen under an avalanche of towels, spare toothbrushes, talc bottles. I knew it was time to clear out my clutter. So I got my bin bags and my rubber gloves and started under the stairs. That's where most of my clutter began. I have a cocktail bar from the 1960s, a walking stick that you can sit on, but without the metal bit, so the spike would go right up here. I have a Bakelite telephone that does...
Kit challenge.
Wasn't I have her
Yes,
twice?
you're right.
Is that right? I'm so sorry, but
No,
she did it to me, so
I
I'm
did.
really on a mission of revenge.
As I did repeat, I have. And you've got him with 8 seconds to go, Kit, on clearing out your clutter, starting now.
I hadn't considered colonic irrigation as a possibility until I learned that the warm water is infused with herbs, marjoram, thyme. I thought would be lovely. Unfortunately, she reached for the chili.
So Kit was then speaker as the whistle when gained that extra point. He's now 2 points ahead of Paul. He's in the lead. And Kit, we're back with you to begin. And the subject is how to throw a successful party. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
This is right up my alley. This is what I do. Oh, this is.
Lisa.
Didn't get far, did I? No, sorry.
Right, Lisa, correct challenge. 58 seconds. How to throw a successful party, starting now.
Nicholas Parsons is quite frankly the Dordogne of knowledge when it comes to how to throw a successful party. And his Dare to Bear sequence in spring was actually something to write home about. And I didn't get back to my abode for 2 weeks because of what he force-fed me, whether it was music...
I think we should stop right there.
Yeah. It sounded very exciting. I wish I'd been there.
Great.
So, Kit, you have the subject, you have how to throw... Oh, what was the challenge?
Oh, it was hesitation.
Oh, yes,
it was hesitation, I thought.
36 seconds. How to throw a successful party, starting now.
Those who have seen Nicholas Parsons give his Aspasia Queen of the Upper Nile in belly dancing form are fortunate indeed. Strong men whimper, warriors burst into tears, pashas and khans empty cornucopias of jewels at his feet.
Paul, challenge.
Are we a bit far away from how to throw a successful party?
No, I don't think you got to your point quick enough.
No, you're quite right.
So, Paul, 22 seconds. How to throw a successful party, starting now.
Lots of people make special efforts, don't they, matching individuals?
Kit, you got it back again.
I'm sorry, there was a hesitation.
There was a hesitation. And there are 19 seconds still available, Kit. How to throw a successful party, starting now.
Basically, it's a question of lighting. Keep it as low as possible, and it will go with a swing. If you've got a very good-looking waiting staff, indeed, that can help. Elle Macpherson has matching butlers, identical twin Beach Boys, which are absolutely beguiling and hand round all sorts of good sweeties towards her successful parties. It's a trick I've...
Right, so Kit was then speaking as the whistle went, and he gained that extra point. He's creeping up on the leader, Paul. He's only 1 point behind him, and he's a couple ahead of Lisa Tarbuck and Josie Lawrence in that order. And Josie, we're back with you. Here's a subject for you. Advice from my hairdresser. You'd like to tell us something about that in this game, starting now?
My hairdresser is actually my best friend. She's called Michelle. And the best advice she ever gave me was, I think we better unlock the refrigerator now. Let me go back in time to explain this. We went out one day, after she'd cut and dyed my hair, in my flat, to a little bar in Soho, and then to another one, and then we started to drink a little more until it was 3 o'clock in the morning. You have to remember, we were very young. It was the 1980s, and crazy times. We went past Spitalfields Market and saw all these blokes travelling about on their little trolleys. Thought it might be fun to join them. So we got on one of the said wheelie machinery thingies and said, do you enjoy your work? Yes, they replied, but we don't like our boss. So me and my hairdresser decided to lock said person down.
Oh, so good.
It's a true story.
I'm hate to have to say it, but Kit, you've got in with only 3 seconds to go.
Oh, sorry. Snatch.
That's fine, yes. But as you went for nearly 60 seconds, Josie, we're going to give you a bonus point. 'Cause you went 50. And Kit, you have 3 seconds on advice from my... Oh, you don't need it, do you?
Thank you, Nicholas. I wondered when that was going to come.
Mind you, he could...
Does he charge a search fee?
He could work on the beard, couldn't he?
He could, yes. That's getting quite lush.
Yes, it's good, yes. Advice from my hairdresser. Kit, starting now.
My hairdresser advised me that a Brazilian would be extremely painful on no account was I to try.
Right. So, Kit Hesketh, have we got the point for speaking as the whistle went? And he's crept up, and he's now again only 1 point behind Paul Merton, our leader. And Lisa, it's your turn to begin. The subject is my favourite children's book. 60 seconds, starting now.
I'm very partial to a good illustration, and by that I would take the work of Arthur Rackham as an example, because he draws the most beautiful fairies and involves them in the bark of trees, or Fairy Queen... Oh, blast it.
No, you didn't.
I did.
You could have kept going.
You could have kept going.
But I didn't, did I?
No.
It's what women of a certain age call pink fog.
Paul, there's always a new perfume around, isn't there?
45 seconds are available for you, Paul, now, on my favourite children's book, starting now.
Just William, I suppose, written by Richmore Crompton. She composed many of those books over the years, and I first encountered the boy when I was about 12 years old, roughly the same age as our eponymous hero, I suppose. I was also a big fan of Enid Blyton, and I didn't mind that they seemed to be middle-class people, and they were just British and white, and there wasn't anything else happening particularly, and smugglers used to walk by and have swarthy beards and say things like, "God, strike a light, I reckon the boat's going to be late, what do you reckon, skipper?" And things like this that would give the children...
Kid challenge.
There were 2 reckons there, weren't there? I reckon the boat's going to be late. What do you reckon, skipper?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, the reckon, I'm afraid.
Well, listen, Kit, 17 seconds. Another... A round of applause for sharp listening. 17 seconds with you still. Not with you, but to you. My favourite children's book starting now.
In the end, it has to be Winnie the Pooh, doesn't it? But the last chapter of The House at Pooh Corner is perhaps the most... double Pooh. Oh.
Pooh. Yeah.
I think you were going to try to avoid A.A. Milne. I was waiting for that one, not Pooh. I didn't think Pooh would be repeated. It's a repetition of Pooh, Nicholas.
Yeah, there was too much.
I'm saying that when I'm looking at you.
There was just a bit too much Pooh, wasn't there? 11 seconds with you, Paul. My favourite children's book starting now.
As Lisa said, the illustrations are key. Thomas Henry was the man...
Kit challenge.
I don't think she said the illustrations are key, did she? She said they were beautiful.
Oh, she said she liked them. No,
Oh, did she? Oh, right.
She didn't say they were key, I suppose. No,
No, but he said they were key, but it doesn't
What do you
matter.
think? Do you think they're key?
I do, actually.
She does think they're key.
Oh, well, that's all right then. Carry on.
To the ones I liked, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Good job you're here.
Paul, 7 seconds. My favourite children's book starting now.
When you look at the association of children's authors today, you see a magnificent body of people who contribute so much to...
Well, Paul got that point for speaking as the whistle went and has moved forward to... And we're moving into the final round. Oh, how lovely you are. I'll give you the situation. Josie is trailing a little in 4th place, just behind Lisa Tarbuck, and she's a point or 2 behind Kit Hesketh Harvey, who's 2 points behind Paul Merton as we go into the final round, and it is train announcements. And it's Kit, it's your turn to begin. So will you tell us something about train announcements starting now?
I set off this morning from Bodmin Parkway, deep in the heart of the duchy on this beautiful day, and went through Exeter, St. David's, Bristol, Reading, Paddington, Ealing, where I got on to the Red Line, I believe it's called, to the common Acton town. I feel suddenly rather like Clement Freud. Could somebody else take over?
Josie's challenge.
I'll take over for him.
Yes, you take over, Josie.
Anyway, he wasn't
Hesitation.
actually giving train announcements. He was giving a
But they
travel...
do these days, Nicholas. They come through in the passenger compartment.
Yes, but you didn't establish that fact. You just gave us a monologue of the stations you went
I'm doing
to.
all these logical jumps, aren't I?
No, that's right. No, doesn't matter. Josie's got in. with 36 seconds on train announcements. Josie, starting now.
What really upsets me about train announcements is when they say, "We apologise for the delay," and you can tell that the voice on the other end of said announcement isn't sorry at all. But what is much worse is the automated voices that come out of the stations, like some weird little robotic Daleks living up there in the office who are so bleep-a-jib-a-doo.
Paul, what is it?
Nice to hear blibbidi-bidi-doo again. It's one of my favourite words, but I think it's deviation.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Lovely to hear it, though.
I stopped breathing.
Yeah.
But words still came out.
Yeah.
For the jibbity-jibbity-doo. And 8 seconds, Paul, on train announcements, starting now.
On the tube, the Northern Line, you go from Morden, South Wimbledon, Collier's Wood, two's in Broadway, and then you skip a few.
Kit challenge.
Well, isn't he doing the same thing as I got done?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm announcing the stations as I'm going through. On the Northern Line, Morden, South
But
Wimbledon.
I got hung, drawn and quartered and hoisted
No,
by
you
petards.
didn't get hung, drawn and quartered.
I was shown as an
No.
example and dropped.
No, but he was
Surely.
doing the same thing as you. He wasn't making a train announcement. He was giving an account of
There
all
are
the...
people in Indonesia listening to this. Humiliated.
They need a change at Kennington for either Charing Cross Line or the bank. But he needs to know that.
No, you were just giving a list of the stations and you weren't giving an announcement.
Okay.
So, Kit, you've got in with 1 second to go. Oh. And won't make much difference to the final result. And... train announcements starting now. So Kit Harvey was speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point. And he's finished up with a lot of points. But let me just tell you, but first of all, Josie was trailing a little in 4th place, just behind Lisa Tarbuck. She was just behind Kit Harvey, and he was only 1 point behind Paul Merton. So we say, Paul, 1 point ahead. You're still the winner this week. So it only remains me to say thank you to these 4 fine players of the game, Paul Merton, Lisa Tarbuck, Josie Lawrence and Kit Harvey. I thank Sharon Leonard, who has helped me with the score, blown her whistle with aplomb when the 60 seconds arose. And we thank our producer, Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're grateful to this lovely audience here in the Radio Theatre. And so from them and from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, thank you for tuning in, and be with us the next time we play Just a Minute!